Ehe. E, 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 e. E, 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 e.
Yes, good morning. Hello. Hello, my name is Lucia Garcia. I'm the director of IMAL, and I'm presenting the event on behalf of all the team of IMAL. My colleagues, we're not so many, but we have Yannick here, Luis and Ellie, and some collaborators that are also regular collaborators like Jeremy here doing the technical part. First of all, welcome to IMAL, and thank you for joining us for this first day of the Cookery. The Cookery is an event that we do for the second time. This is the second edition, and we have somehow fine-tuned it in several ways. To start with, we are doing only 4 days. We did a full week last year. But we thought that shorter but more focused would be always the best option. So we decided to start today, and we finished on Sunday. And we invite you to continue the rest of the activities from today until Sunday. For those of you that are not so much into hands-on and the workshops, etc., there are other activities also, like the concerts and the performances, that the networking dinners, so the eatery could also be something appealing for you. We invite you to join us. IMAL is, after 25 years, in a reflection period. This is also why we're starting our event with a reflection. And we not only want to reflect among ourselves, we also want to reflect with the community, and we invite you, because this is a participative event, so please give us some input, give us some feedback. We also, as part of the Cookery this year, wanted to fine-tune certain things, like for example, we want, as part of this reflection that we started internally, we have decided, and we have somehow all agreed that we have to work closer to our local community, and this proves that is something that is needed. It is a very necessary thing to do for several reasons, but mainly because we will make a stronger field if we're all closer to each other, if we have one voice. The administrations will understand much better what the field is all about, how difficult it is to have strong structures that can support the artistic community, which is an emerging community in Belgium, and very interesting community. I have to say that after 2.5 years here, I'm really impressed with the level of the community here, and I'm super excited to learn more and more about the artists here. So. This year we will have 3 threads, not so many like last year, but we will have 3 threads. First one will be art science, and this is what we're going to deal with this morning, art science projects that we want to highlight. The afternoon will be devoted to a critical approach to digital fabrication and maker culture after many, many years. Like I said, 25 years of IMAL. But lots of years of our Fab Lab, and we want to have a critical look at it and see where we position ourselves and where we're going to. So again, please give us feedback on that. And then we have also one last thread that is more fun. We thought it was super fun to do some DIY music. Aside from this being fun, we also have to make a strong statement there, in the sense that we want to be inclusive, we want these technologies to be accessible to everyone, and therefore we want to go not high tech, we want to not go with the hype, we want to be inclusive, we want to go DIY. There are certain things that can be done and are super exciting. We have the best possible artists. These 4 workshops are super exciting. As also part of the reflection and part of the statement of this year, we made some duos. So we had some artists working in duo. We suggested them, the artists that come from abroad, are working with artists from Belgium, based in Belgium, and we want to see what all these ingredients will give us. So thank you all for being there, and we continue the event, hopefully together, not only today, but until Sunday. And to start with art science talks, I want to introduce you to Marie Duchâtel, who is the first speaker today. You probably know Marie very well, but in any case, I want to briefly read her short bio. Marie is a freelance curator specialized in new media art based in Brussels. She's the artistic director of KIKK, a non-for-profit organization that explores the crossovers between art, science, new technologies, and society through 5 major projects: the KIKK Festival dedicated to digital cultures, Le Pavillon, exhibition and art center managed by KIKK, Track, the creative hub, Fab Lab and Media Lab of Namur, and the KIKK online magazine of creative cultures. Marie is a member of the Digital Arts Commission of the Wallonia-Brussels Federation since 2014. In 2020, she was elected Francophone Woman of the Year by the AIMF, International Association of Francophone Mayors. And welcome, Marie, and thank you for sharing about imagining ecological futures, which in fact connects so well with our upcoming exhibition next May. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Lucia. I just need to connect my presentation. Okay, perfect. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Imal and Lucia, for the invitation. As Lucia was mentioning, I'm the artistic director of KIKK. KIKK is a non-profit association. We started in Namur in 2011, so we've been active for more than 10 years now, almost 15 years, very soon. And we call it the KIKK Galaxy because we have many different types of activities which are all connected to each other. So I'm going to try today to explain to you a bit the connection between our art and science residency program with the rest of the activities we are developing. So we create unexpected connection between the world of art, science, technology and society, and we do this through different activities. So as I was saying, we started in 2011 and we started developing and adding more projects, locations and activities to the association up until now. And the 4 main projects are KIKK Festival, which is a yearly festival taking place every year at the end of October. Track, the creative hub, Fab Lab and Media Lab of Namur. An artistic production platform, and Le Pavillon, which is our permanent exhibition space. And they are all connected to each other. And I'm just spamming here and putting you the dates of the next KIKK Festival, which is taking place at the end of October this year. I'm not gonna... sorry, I need to switch my slide. Okay. So for those who don't know, I guess you all know KIKK Festival. Does anybody don't know KIKK Festival? Okay. Okay, 2 people. So KIKK Festival, so maybe I can show you a few images. So it's It's a yearly festival taking place every year at the end of October in Namur, exploring the same topics, art, science, technology, and society, through a vast program of conferences, exhibitions, workshops, activities for kids, yeah, and networking activities, parties at night. It gathers at the same time the artistic community, the new media art community, but also business crowds, people working in the field of web design, communication, motion design, and cultural and creative industries. And we are also managing Le Pavillon, which is an exhibition space, which looks like this. It used to be the Belgian pavilion of the Milan World Exhibition in 2015, which has been dismantled and reconstructed on the top of the citadel of Namur at the arrival of the cable car. And it's an exhibition space exploring the same topics, art, science, technology, and society, with an exhibition program every year. And so today I'm here to tell you a bit more about our artistic production platform and our residency program. Can you tell me, can you give me some information about the time? Because I'm really bad about times. So when there is 10 minutes remaining and then 5 minutes, can you wave? Perfect. Yeah, 10 minutes and 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Sorry, I recently had a kid, so I have a one month baby at home, and so I did my presentation at the last minutes because I couldn't work a lot yesterday. So that's why I'm not sure I will be able to keep track of time. So I'm gonna give you some history on when we started the production platform and when we started to launch the art and science residency program, and then I'm gonna tell you a bit more about the artistic projects we have been supporting over the years. So we started, so we launched the non-profit association in 2011, and the reason why we started by funding this association was to organize KIKK Festival, and after 3 editions, we wanted to develop more than just a festival, but also after 3 editions, showing the work of new media artists based in Belgium. We started receiving a lot of requests from artists asking us to produce their work or to help us produce some work from international artists and also local based artists. And so that's when we started to produce new works and develop our artistic supporting activities. And in the beginning, we didn't have any budget to do that, so we just started to use the budget of the festival to commission and produce new works. So I'm going to show a few of those works that we started to produce or co-produce. So in 2014, we produced this installation called Porté by Lab 212, which was basically a giant musical instrument. So you had those electroluminescent wires that were exhibited in a church, and at the back of the church there was, we don't really see it on the picture here, but there was a Yamaha Disclavier piano, which are those are pianos that can be programmed by MIDI controllers, so they can automatically play some tunes when they receive a MIDI signal. And basically, there was a composition made by Le Chapelier Fou. It was a generative composition, and basically people, visitors of the church, could trigger some different sounds and play together on the piano by touching those electroluminescent wires. Then we co-produced with one other festival, Resonate Festival, which was a festival taking place in Belgrade, in Serbia, we co-produced this show, which was a collaboration between Kyle MacDonald, Klaus Obermeier, and Daito Manabe, using real-time video modifications of dancers. We also produced in 2015 this installation by Greg Bars, decomposing the movement of a tennis show. And we started also in 2016 a lot of co-productions with WorkTank. It started in 2016 and it never stopped since then. So for those who don't know, WorkTank is an artistic production platform based in Leuven, here in Belgium, and they are supporting artists through program of residencies, also financially through exhibitions. And if you don't know them, check them out if you are an artist, because they do an incredible work in supporting artists, but also distributing them worldwide. So I'm not going to explain all those works, but it was just to show you that we started producing and co-producing some works by Belgian artists, and also expanding collaborations with local artistic support and production platforms. So those projects were all in 2016, and then starting from 2018, we started to produce a lot more art and science projects and develop collaborations with research center and also with researchers and scientists. So this is a project we developed in 2018. It was a collaboration between the Interactive Architecture Lab from the Bartlett School of Architecture and EMOLF, the Soft Robotic Matter group in the Netherlands. And basically the Soft Robotic Matter group is experimenting on what is called pneumatics and soft robotics. So basically creating robots using soft materials or silicone or latex. They are also researching self-assembling robots, and they created those assembling elements that you can combine into multiple to create multiple shapes. Those are the elements that you can see on this on this image. Those small square elements. And basically you can assemble them in a lot of different ways, and you can animate them with some robots and some robotics techniques. And basically they create this, so it was part of a project called Les Voyages de Capitaine Futur, which is an educational project which aimed was to teach kids how to code and the basics of robotics and code and programming through art and creativity. So basically we created a lot of different workshops based on artworks. So this was one of the artwork, and basically this installation was an interactive installation. So depending on where you were located in the area, it was animating the different flowers in the background that were on the wall in the background, or also the flowers of this tree that was standing in the middle of the room, based on the position of visitors around in the room. We then developed on the same year this project called Hearing Gravity, which was a collaboration by Antoine Bertin and André Fusfa, which is a scientist at the University of Namur. So André Fusfa is an astrophysicist, and he's also the director of the Astronomical Observatory of the University of Namur. and Hearing Gravity was a project attempting to convey the change of in time and in space that would take place if us human beings we could be able to be close to a black hole. So basically, gravity is so intense when you are next to a black hole that the time is much longer than what it would be if you would be on planet Earth, and also your perception of your body would be completely expensed because of the gravity next to a black hole. And it was basically an experience based on binaural sound in which we mess up with your mind and we try to make you see and hear things that are there or not there. It's really difficult to explain this project because it's a project that needs to be experienced, and it's playing with your perception of time and space, and it's tricking your mind basically. And I cannot reveal much about this project because if it's still touring, I would spoil you the entire installation, and it's like a good movie. If I tell you what is happening in this project, then you're not surprised anymore with the experience. So if one day you see it somewhere, do it, because it's really surprising. So it's a 10-minute experience and a 10-minute performance with headphones and a physical installation with a dark lake, and you are walking on volcanic sand in the installation. We also co-produced Microscopies by Alain Wergifos, which is creating abstract video paintings using microscopic phenomenons, some chemical phenomenons, but also mineral phenomenons. And you have those 12 screens showing you those sort of abstract paintings, which are videos taken by a 4K microscope, filming a lot of different reactions. Then we produced Decay by Pepa Ivanova in 2018 and 2019. Decay are glass made sculptures, and inside of those glass sculptures you have a lot of different water-based solutions with living organism, with organic dyes and living organism. And it's called Decay because they are still evolving and decaying over the course of the exhibition. So basically, we showed it at KIKK Festival over 4 days, and then we showed it during a 6-month exhibition at Le Pavillon. And the colors are changing over the course of the exhibition, depending on the humidity in the air, depending also on the sun and the light that is in the exhibition space. So at the beginning of the exhibition, the colors were really bright, and the installation was really aesthetically clean. And then over the course of the exhibition, there was some mold which started to proliferate, or some fungi which started to proliferate in some of the glass sculptures. Some of them started leaking, and the colors started to decay and become a bit more less bright and less vivid colors. In 2015, after a few years of KIKK Festival, we decided to have a lot more impact on the local territory and on our city, because KIKK Festival was an international festival gathering a lot of international people to Namur, and it was taking place over 4 days. But after those 4 days, it was we didn't have a long-lasting effect on the city or on its citizen, and that's the reason why we decided to launch this project, to have a program running over the years and during the year after KIKK Festival. So we launched the Creative Hub, Fab Lab, and Fab Lab of Namur in 2015. It was a collaboration with BEP, which is the Office for Economic Development of the City of Namur, and the University of Namur. So together we went looking for funding to be able to have a physical location in Namur. And we got some funding from the FEDER funding, European Regional Federal Development Fund, which are European funding for economic development, which is funds given by the European Commission, the EU, and also by Wallonia to develop the economy in certain regions. And so we got this funding to create a creative hub in Namur. And before having finished the construction of the final venue, we started prototyping this Fab Lab and Creative Hub in this house that you are seeing there. So we stayed during 5 years in a house that was not made at all for hosting a Fab Lab and doing those type of activities, but it was the only location we could find in Namur. So, but it was great because it enabled us to develop the community. So those are some images of the activities we started doing there. And since we started having a Fab Lab, that's when we started developing our residency programs, because we had a physical location in which we could welcome artists to develop some projects. 5 years later, Track became this location, so a much bigger venue of 3,000 square meters. With offices for companies, with some spaces to organize workshops and conferences, and we also opened the Proto Lab and the Media Lab. So the Proto Lab is the Fab Lab of Namur, like here in Imal, we have a Fab Lab in Namur, and the Media Lab, which is dedicated to the creation of immersive experiences, whether they are XR, VR, or also immersive sound or binaural sound. So we have a program of activities and workshops, some motion capture suits, also computers able to work with real-time game engines, and we teach people how to use those techniques. And so after having launched Track, we started launching our art and science residency programs. Okay, 5 minutes, so 10, okay, thank you. So we launched them first in 2017 and 2018 with the speculative design residency program that we launched in collaboration with the Goethe Institute. And so we co-produced with them some installation on the topic of speculative design. Every year we were welcoming one artist from the Wallonia Brussels Federation and one artist from Germany or based in Germany. So those are some images of the projects we produced in 2017 and 2018. And then after 2 years of producing and supporting artists in speculative design, the topic of climate change and the Anthropocene and the rising concerns about the climate crisis became more and more prominent everywhere in the world, and we could really see the effects of climate change. So we decided to change the topic into imagining ecological futures. So since then, we have continued this residency program over the years. So the way it works for each of our residency program is that we do a collaboration with a cultural location in Namur. So in this case, it's a collaboration with the Cultural Center of Namur, Les Abattoirs de Baumel. So it's an old slaughterhouse in which they have 5 residency spaces that can accommodate artists and collectives. So this is an image of the cultural center of Namur. And basically the artists have access, so they sleep there and they have access to our Fab Lab technical support, and each artist every year receive a production budget of 5,000 euros to spend either on artistic fees or on the material they can choose. So in 2019 we supported François Winans, who's created several devices using wind and natural elements to create drawings. So here you can see an helium inflated balloon with a pen which is attached to the balloon, and he's using this device to draw on the soil, on the floor, on the ceiling, or on different surfaces. And he also puts them outdoor in the air, and it's using the wind to draw on different surfaces. He also creates hanging devices that he places in the woods, and they hang from the trees, and basically just the wind is making the ropes move. And it creates those drawings. So after a few days, he comes back to the woods and picks up those drawings. And he creates those type of cartographies of drawings made by non-human entities and vegetals. In the Fab Lab, he also created a device that he can place on his bicycle, and basically he can create drawings and a sort of topography of a ride he made in the woods. So those are a few images that were exhibited after the residency at KIKK Festival. So what we try to do after each residency is to show the artistic project we produce in one of our exhibition, or to help the artists to distribute and show those projects in other exhibitions if they don't fit with the topics of our own activities. So this was shown at KIKK Festival. We also produced in 2019 a project called Memory Matter by Farah Peluso, which is an artist from Italia based in Germany. So it's a project that is investigating the effect of climate change on rivers in Wallonia. So intense agriculture, the effect of intense agriculture and climate change combined is resulting of a rise of algae in our rivers and in certain bodies of water. So this phenomenon is called algae bloom. And basically, it creates a huge proliferation of algae because they feed on certain bacteria. They feed on certain elements like nitrogen and phosphorus, and those are elements that are in the waste of agriculture that are thrown by the sewing system into rivers. So basically, she collaborated with scientists at the University of Namur to create a topography and a sculpture that is raising awareness on this phenomenon, because those algae blooms, what they do is that they are, once the algae are proliferating, they are also decaying, and they are eaten by certain types of bacteria that are eating up all the oxygen in the rivers. And so when there is no more oxygen, all the insects and fishes of those bodies of water are dying. So she used organic dyed material and algae to create a topography of the rivers and of Lac de l'Odeur in Wallonia, where those phenomena of algae bloom existed. This is a series of paintings by Muesli Collective. So they create evolving paintings with bacteria and mineral components that are reacting to humidity and to light in in the exhibition space. So they evolve and change colors over the years. Those are the results of the residency that was shown at Le Pavillon 2 years ago. Kalasli Fried was investigating the extinction of certain species, and specifically here he was investigating the disappearance of the turtle dove in Belgium. So he collaborating with scientists and also some Natagora, which is an organization active in the preservation of the natural habitats in Belgium. And he recorded the sound of the turtle dove and created a video and several sound sculptures of this dove that were exhibited in the exhibition space. In 2001 and 2002, we produced this installation called Conversation Métabolite by Antoine Bertin, which is a scientific collaboration between a scientist that he met on a residency on the Fondation Tara Oceans, which is a residency on a boat every year. It's an expedition with scientists. So it tries to convey the fact that non-human living beings on the planet can communicate in a way. So basically, this expedition on Tara Oceans Foundation was there to study phytoplanktons, and phytoplanktons, they emit some kind of chemical components called metabolites, and they can emit more than 1,500 different metabolites, and scientists are trying to understand what are those metabolites. And basically, it's like the alphabet of the phytoplankton. So they use it to communicate with each other. So, for example, when a certain type of metabolite is emitted, the other can recognize that there is a bacteria attacking the plankton, and those who are infected those who are nearby, those infected, will all commit suicide in a way to preserve the rest of the community. And so he used those metabolites to create a sonification of the metabolites that was directed towards this fake pond on the floor with a directional speaker. And so the sound was reflecting on the pond in different parts of the location. We also produced this installation by Carlos Fer called Still Life, which is investigating the impact of the metal industry on climate and the pollution of the metal industry, not on climate but on the environment. So he created those type of flowers which are made through an electrolysis process. So he goes to some dumps to gather some parts of metal, and then he puts them in a solution with electric current. And with this electrolysis system, he's able to make the metal bloom and to give a second life to this discarded metal. So he created this culture of different flowers that we exhibited at the last KIKK festival. We also produced this installation called Plantidori by Dewi Brunner. I know Camilla will also speak about Dewi's work later. So Dewi is combining folding methods and origami with robotics, and he creates those robotic and paper landscapes which are animated with robots. So when you get closer to them, they move. And during the residency, we produced this installation, and he was also investigating how to use organic materials and organic dyes rather than paper in his installations. And I think I'm out of time, right? Okay, it's okay. And so next to the Imagining Ecological Futures residency program, we also developed another residency program more recently, which is the residency at the Astronomical Observatory of the University of Namur. So it's a collaboration also with a cultural center, Le Delta. So here the residency spaces are there on the rooftop of Le Delta in Namur. And the two residents also receive a 5,000 euros production budget, and they have access to the Astronomical Observatory of the University of Namur, where there are 5 different telescopes. And so they can collaborate with the astrophysicists and the scientific community evolving around the observatory. And to develop a project. So we were lucky on the first residency. There was a solar eclipse. The moon was a partial solar eclipse. The moon was partially covering the sun, and they have a telescope that is able to look at the sun in bright daylight. So we were able to look at the eclipse from the observatory. And it was crazy because it was really the first day of the residency, so it was a nice coincidence. And we developed a project with Amélie Bouvier that is ongoing and that will be shown at Le Pavillon this year. So this year at Le Pavillon, we are opening on the 21st of June at the time of the summer solstice, a new show called Stellarscape. Investigating new space exploration. And so this project, so this is one image of the series of work she developed around satellite pollution. So it's looking at the sky and at all the different satellites we are sending into the sky and the pollution it creates, because over the past 10 years we have sent more than 600% more satellites than in the past 50 years of space exploration. And Elon Musk, the Starlink project by Elon Musk is by itself aiming to send 33,000 satellites to orbit the Earth in the next couple of years. And now there are a lot of competition projects which also will send 10,000 of satellites to orbit the Earth. And so it's totally cluttering the sky, and it's becoming a problem for space astronomical observation, because it creates some lines over the observation made by telescope. And so she's sonifying the lines and the trajectories of those satellites, and she will create an installation which is a kind of instrument sonifying in real time the satellites that are passing over our heads. In the exhibition center, we also developed this project with Lucien Biteau, which is investigating optics and how optics and filters are influencing the way we perceive space. And it resulted into another installation which was co-produced by Lefrenois, which will be shown also in this show at Le Pavillon. And the two projects we did last year was Louise Charlier, the Library of Spatial Imaginaries, which is looking at all imaginaries, science fiction imaginaries and imaginaries around space made by humans. And she will create a sort of library of all the imaginaries we created around space. And Alessia Sana Lupica, who is also looking at satellite pollution. So she creates this data visualization sculpture. So this is a prototype, and it will be a large-scale sculpture with sound and live projection. So basically, she will make a model with the 33,000 satellites that are currently orbiting the Earth, and to to basically help you raise awareness on this problem of low orbit pollution. So when you look at the projection on the wall, this is the white space around the Earth is the low orbit of the Earth, and it's basically the location around the Earth where they are the most the biggest number of satellites. And that's it. I'm done for my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie. I didn't mention it before. We will do the 3 presentations, and then afterwards we will have some time for questions and comments. Okay. So let's maybe we can 5 minutes to Camilla to set up, and 5-minute break. Hello again. I'll introduce you briefly to Camila, our next speaker, Camila Colombo from Ohme. Camila is a curator and researcher interested in the epistemological relationship between arts and science. Voila.
Wow.
That was the fireworks to present Camila. Thank you for that. She curated exhibitions in collaboration with the Museum of Ixelles at Beaux-Arts, Pilar and Imal. And she collaborated with Set 33 in Hasselt and Atelier Luma in Arles, among others. With a background in the performing arts and in advocacy for the arts at the European level, Camila has worked in Italy, the UK and Belgium. She's interested in the hybridization and crossing of disciplines. She served in art organizations of all sizes as well as with independent artists, focusing on multidisciplinary and multimedia productions. She's co-founder and artistic director of Ohme, an organization curating and producing through collaborative practices at the nexus of arts and sciences. In 2019, she co-founded Saloon Brussels, network for women working in the arts scene of the Belgian capital. Thank you, Camila. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lucia. Thank you for the invitation. Very happy to be here. There's a very complete introduction. Lucia already told you that, yes, in 2000 and, well, not the year, but a few years back, let's say 7 years back, with a bunch of friends, we decided that we wanted to do something. We're not really sure about what. But it happened that the friends and this group of friends were quite a mixed group. Myself, with a background 100% in the arts. Quite frankly, a bit the cliche of the students that sucked at sciences at school, but I really sucked. And I found myself hanging out as an adult with engineers and researchers and scientists, and all of a sudden, I actually realized that sciences are cool. It's not all bad. Math can be cool and can be super interesting. So we started to do something. At the beginning, we were really not sure about what. It was just a series of attempts to get together and explore new ways for us that made sense for us to bring in different disciplines that we were interested in. It started, by the way, with quite a keen interest in music and technology and the science, physics of sound, etc. It rather quickly evolved, and today Ohme is an ASBL, is a non-for-profit that builds bridges between arts and sciences. It's basically a platform through which we, an interdisciplinary team, try to find new ways of creating and researching in these liminal spaces in between disciplines. What we do is that we try to, as I said, build bridges between disciplines, so the arts in a very broad sense, and design, and sciences in a very broad sense, meaning hard sciences, but also the humanities, and applied sciences, engineering. We do that nowadays, being structured. We still remain quite a small team, but we have decided we found a way of structure our activities in a way that in which every single project end up nurturing or being reused or being applied in other projects. We are today structured in a sort of 3 pillars shape. We have the academia, Ohme Academia, which is the branch that takes care, that leads and proposes and coordinates academic projects. So with a lot of education, research, and pedagogical projects. These are mostly projects that are led by my colleague Raoul, who's over there. Hello, Raoul. And that are meant, they are meant for the universities and for higher education institution, so they happen within the universities. Very little of this project comes back to the surface. Every year, more or less, now we do an exhibition of the outcomes, but these are definitely projects that are meant for the students and for the for academics. Generally, projects of cooperation and collaboration between researchers, postdocs in different sciences, and art students. Yeah, or it can also be articulated through, for example, we invite young engineers of going and having their mandatory internship instead of doing it Electrabel to do it in the studio of artists, and so apply their competences straight away in a creative way, helping out artists. The lab is the department of Ohme that is mostly dedicated to engineering and R&D and technical development. We do that for our own creations, but also for other artists and creatives. And I will tell you more about it a little bit later. And studio is the most visible branch of Ohme, is the one through which we do exhibitions, outreach events, whether they are workshops or talks, etc., public programs in the broad sense, and the residency program. So yes, these are a few photos of, for example, these are a bit of the outcomes of some of the outcomes of the projects that were done by students of La Cambre. This is the project of collaboration between students and research that I was telling you about. Then we do exhibitions. There was order of operation at Beaux-Arts. This is when I said that maths can be cool, very seducing. It was a shock for me to discover it. I learned a lot curating this exhibition. Kima, this is one of our production done by the lab, oh, this is a video. Nice. As I was saying, we have a lot of engineers in Ohme. Some of them are electronics and mechatronics engineer, and we have also a material scientist that plays a lot with, likes to play a lot with a big and quite frankly pretty expensive microscope. And we use, so we do material sciences experiments. At the beginning were done in collaboration, strictly in collaboration with the a specific lab of Chimie des Polymères at the ULB. Now we have our own equipment. We're growing our equipment in order to be more and more independent in experiments and do stuff. This was another installation that we created thanks to material sciences engineers. It's called Iris, and it's based. It exploits and explores basically the beautiful changement in matter. This what we see here are thermochromic liquid crystals. So basically, it's a material that changes color with the changement of temperature, and and it's very interesting because it changes, the colors change really not because of the light, but really because of the molecular structure of the matter itself. Why do I get into these details? Well, because we do all that not, of course, by ourselves, but because we collaborate a lot with universities, like a lot. Like we have a lot of academic partners. This is crucial because what we do is we really put a lot of effort into finding ways to have the arts and the sciences on the same level in a dialogue in which none prevail. There is no we really try a lot to avoid the trap of using sciences to just inspire the arts or to merely find technical solutions, as well as trying to avoid to use the arts for science outreach or science communication. We really try to go beyond this dichotomy, and so we find ourselves in a field that is growing. It's nothing new. It's growing, but sometimes we hear it called art science, sometimes STEAM methods when we talk about. You see there all this little nice drawing made by Cécile Cuny in Recherche en Perspective a few years back. So we are talking about artists and research collaborations and integrated research methodologies, transdisciplinarity. There are a lot of keywords that comes back. But for the moment, I will focus on this first part, this first graphic, which is in French. I'm pretty sure, I hope that everyone more or less will understand it. But basically, in this little drawing, we understand quite well how we see things. Artistic practices nurture scientific practices that nurture artistic practices as two same, they're not even two different sides of a coin. They are the same side in this exercise, in this. So starting from this basis in which the scientific and the artistic belong to the same place, whether it's mental space or physical space, we started we started helping out other people, mostly artists that were coming to us with requests, and then also some scientists, actually, some researchers. And we started, well, at the beginning it was really not a program to support artistic research and production. It was way more scattered than an actual program. It took a while for us to cool down and put things in an organized way. This led to doing residencies, which led in which we really try to understand how can we be of help concretely, and not just giving some money for production or for whatever, but really putting our competences at the service of artistic research and creation. This can span from curation, science mediation, and mise en réseau, or technical and R&D and engineering. So at the beginning, we started with the artist. What we thought, what we found ourselves, the situation we found ourselves in, despite our very strong connection with the universities, we decided to start with the artist. We had so many demands, so many requests of support, of help, of, we could call it, if we were corporate, we would call it consultancy, basically. So in 2022-23, we selected, structured for the first time our support program. For the first time, it was funded by the Fédération Wallonie-Bruxelles and by Innoviris. So we selected 5 different projects that were very different from each other. Each of them was chosen because we really felt that we could help concretely, and we could really make a difference. So from Damien Petitot, who was starting up with a new interactive installation. There was a responsive installation in the case of Adrien Luca. We had requests for a virtual reality project from Laura Colmenares Guerra. Creative coding was a project of Frédéric Van Hout, and a new audiovisual installation by Yannick Jacquet and Otto Lindom. For each of these projects, we had to mobilize some competences that we either had ourselves or that we went and found within the academic community. So from computer vision and signal processing were things we did internally, writing and curation in the case of Laura and Frédéric was done internally. But for example, we went out and looked for help and for moments of exchange and mutual learning actually for the case of the audiovisual installation of Yannick et Otto, who is basically based on eye movement therapy. No, it's called MDR. It's basically a therapy in which you integrate memories by movements, regular movements of the eyes, looking at following or not following light sources of small objects. So these are a few photos of the projects that we supported last year. This is the installation of Colorion of Adrien Lucca. In this case, for example, our involvement ended up being so strong and so crucial that with Adrien we decided that the installation is actually co-signed, Adrien and Ohme. But it's not the case for other productions. Here I didn't change the name, but this is the first. It's a screenshot from the installation of Damien Petitot, which is on machine vision. The VR piece of Laura Colmenares Guerra, the installation of the exhibition of Frédéric Van Hout, who we ended up making in a duo with the photography of Philippe Braquenier, and the installation of Yannick Jacquet et Otto Lindem. Of course, each of these projects is presented at the end of the year of the residency or the year of accompagnement. We present it in a way that going back and circling back to the idea that the connection of the university and the scientific rigor of what we do is super important. It is also super important to do mediation. So, and try to create moments to share knowledge, not only among the scientific and the artistic community, but then give it back to the public. So we organize events and small exhibition to present the outcomes of the residencies, which, by the way, are we don't ask, we don't require final works into our artists. The artists that work with us, they can spend a year prototyping and having whatever experiment at the end of the year to present. We don't mind. The important is that throughout the year there are steps and there is learning and there is exchange. So after all this, it was chaotic. It was really chaotic last year. It was amazing, but very chaotic. So this year we decided to do the opposite. Instead of starting from the artist, we're starting from the scientist. This means that we spent a lot of time going and talking to scientists and different unity of research and different bodies in the different universities. And I'm finally getting to the Sustainable Robotics residency after this very long intro. We happen to be resident to have our spaces on the site of Square, which is undergoing massive renovation. It used to be the ex-caserne of the police, and now is becoming a new hub for a lot of different things. But one of the major actors, two of the major actors on this new site are of course the universities. Why this photo? Because here, these buildings, they are not like this anymore. This is an old photo, but I couldn't find a high-resolution photo of the renovated buildings. Is where Brias is installing himself. He's having his new space. What is Brias? Brias is the Brussels Institute for Advanced Studies. Is a new initiative for an advanced studies institute co-led and wanted deeply by the two major Brussels universities, so ULB and VUB, and is basically an incubator for ideas. is a place and a space in which the two universities run thematic program every year, inviting world-level researchers from everywhere in the world to spend time, hang out, talk about stuff on a scientific point of view. Basically creating a space of total academic freedom, which is not always, it's not something we should take for granted at all. With just simply the idea of gathering people working on the same topic from different angle, from different perspective, from the social sciences to sciences to engineering, to discuss and learn and exchange. Of course, a space like that in academia is rare and is extremely valuable. So this year, Fari is a partner of the BRIAS program. Why? Because the team is the team that BRIAS is exploring this year is Sustainable Robotics. Why Fari? Fari is the Institute for Artificial Intelligence for the Common Good, another co-led initiative ULB-VUB. Yeah, so they deal with mostly with AI, but also with everything that is related to artificial intelligence applied to common social issues, I would say. Maybe not necessarily social, but very hands-on problems of today's that cities, especially the city of Brussels, faces today. So we're talking about smart mobility, we're talking about smart cities, we're talking about energy grid, we're talking about surveillance, we're talking about security, cyber security. We're really talking about how the city is evolving, the Brussels region is evolving today, not in 50 years. It's today's issues. So within this framework, we went knocking at the door. We've been in contact with BRIAS since his foundation a few years back. And we basically asked, guys, this is what you're doing is very, very cool, but maybe it would be nice to invite artists to, hang out with all this super cool and mega expert from all over the place. And that's how we ended up launching the Sustainable Robotic Residency, through which we managed to invite 2 artists to join 15 senior fellows and 5 junior fellows from all over the world. Why? Because, well, when we talk about, this is something I discovered, when we talk about robotics for scientists, this is what we are talking about. These are actual robots used in hospitals that used to disinfect rooms or to move patients around. Robots for scientists that we met at the BRIAS are used to clean up nuclear sites, to do tasks that we as humans cannot do or do not want to do. Of course, this is, it raises the question of where is the line between just a machine and a robot. No scientist will give you the same answer on that, because there is no actual line yet. We are not in a place, in a space and time where a clear definition of what is a robot exists yet. It's not defined yet. We are used to, sorry, these are slides that were shown to me by Barry Lennox, which is a researcher in the UK that works on nuclear power plants. We think about, everybody's familiar with this type of robots, but the point is that we don't know yet what a robot can be. We have this sort of paradystopial ideas of humanoid that will take our place or with whom we will co-live and coexist. But the truth is that the vast majority of the robots today are this. They look like this, okay? So there is a discrepancy between what goes on in the scientific community and what artists imagine. So the two artists we selected were Dewi Brunet, who did previously residency at KIKK with Marie, and Chris Verdonk. What happened? Well, basically, I will start with Dewi. This is the project that Marie showed you, and is about robotics. It is basically a project combining folding and robotics. What Dewi is looking to do in his residency with us is to expand a lot on this project, moving from basically working a lot, of course, on the robotics of it, in connecting back to his strong inspiration from the natural world and everything that is biomimicry, so this way of applying forms and shapes that we find in nature that are working perfectly to our own creations, our human creation in architecture, in engineering, in whatever it is. So is looking to work more and more on what we call soft robotics, of course. As Marie said, robots that are made of components, of materials that allow them to bend more easily, but also working on biomaterials. So biomaterials and bio-based materials, meaning working with algae, working with mycelium, working with kombucha skins and other type of bacterial skins, to not only create new type of foldings for its structures, but also for the mechanical parts too. The other artist we are working with to this, in this residency is Chris Verdonk. Chris has been interested in mechanics and specifically electromechanics since a while now. He already started working, he worked for many years now on a series of projects in which natural elements like stones move thanks to small, relatively small engines that are alimented only through solar panels, meaning that things like this do move only when the sun is up, and very simply, when there is no sun, the machine doesn't work, period. So expanding on this idea, he proposed us, and came to us with a project that is in collaboration with the Natural Science Museum here in Brussels, to create a new set of robots that work with, keep working and keep expanding the idea of this working with electro engines that are based only on natural sources like the sun or the wind, and thus cannot work if there is no sun or no wind, very simply. Of course, this from a technical point of view is very complicated. It seems simple, but it's not, because of how these engines can tolerate jumps in energy. So, fun fact, of course, not fun fact, but in this context, is looking to develop small robots that biomimic disappearing animal species in the local fauna of Belgium, but broadly speaking, Europe. So what happened is that he has spent time with biologists at the Museum of Natural Sciences, came up with, actually discovered that, when we talk about disappearing species, we always think about exotic animals, or birds of paradise or things like that. But actually, here in Europe, the problem of the disappearance or the extinction of specific species that are crucial to the equilibrium of our ecosystems is actually a major problem. So this is what Chris is looking into, and he's looking to replicate, to create small robots that are solar or wind alimented, and that are designed to try to take up basically the tasks in the ecosystems that are left undone by the disappearing species. Meaning that the small mice that are excavating tunnels in the soil to aerate the soils that are crucial to the well-being of so many plant species, and there are little mice that are disappearing, well, he's trying to create this sort of provocative idea in which small robots will have to take the place of these small mice. But the small robots are alimented only through solar or wind, and so they will never have enough energy to function, thus destined to fail. So, there you go. Getting to the end of it, we also have another call that is open until Sunday. Spread the word. Going back to material sciences, this is a new residency on glass. Specifically, we work with another scientist that, once again, responding to the need of a scientist, who is a material sciences engineer, but also an archaeologist who specializes in non-invasive archaeology, meaning that she studies materials without basically crushing them into pieces, and is interested. She is working on the glass vitraux of the Abbey of Stavros here in Belgium, and she's looking to understand how glass were made, especially tinted glass was made back in the Middle Ages. So we're inviting an artist working with glass to join this residency. It's very cool. Check it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Camila. Since we're a little bit behind schedule, we'll try to go straight to our next presentation. So I invite Arnaud Jacobs and Win Delferme to join me, and I'm gonna take my notes. Yeah, and so we take this opportunity to also talk a little bit about a project around art science that we're starting right now. This is the kickoff activity of Lumson project, and hopefully you will be able to follow some more along the 3 years, for which we have some funding. This is something that we have to celebrate. It's not always easy to get funding from the administration. It only took us a couple of years. Maybe it took us, probably took more to Arnaud. Just we got involved in this adventure 2 years ago, and we started exchanging among each other. 2 years ago we tried, we failed, but this is all about art and learning, and so we believed in the project of Arnaud, and we continued trying. The second time we got the support of the Flanders government, the Innovatia projects, and this is our first activity. So we have this presentation, and then Friday and Saturday and Sunday they will be developing a workshop around revealing the inaudible. So those things that we cannot hear, humans we cannot hear, we will be able to translate them into sound and into light beautifully, like artists always do. So this is the joy of working in this field for me. I will briefly say something about the partnership. We don't have all the partners sitting here today. I'm not sure if there's someone else. I think that there's Dieter, also from Imo will be here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have another 2 partners. Camila just mentioned Fari, the AI Institute for the Common Good is also partner in this project and developing the AI part. And the Imo so University of Hasselt, please correct me if I say something wrong. And and Imo is a research group of the University of Hasselt, and they research on materials. So they have already been working with Arnaud for quite some time in the development of this beautiful speaker that also has light. It's like magic. And then we have another partner who's not here today, and yes. Hey, why are you in the back? Come here. Let us, yeah. Come on. We're in this together, huh? Yes, thank you. So we also have, and this is going to be a horrible pronunciation because if I'm bad in French, I'm even worse in Dutch. So the Hogenrillen, yes. I will give them briefly the word to present themselves. And then I will leave you with Arnaud and Dim, who will do the presentation for the more technical part of the project. But I want everybody to say a little word about the organization. Would you? Yeah?
Hello, my name is Stef Meus. I'm the coordinator of the educational service of the Hogerila. The Hogerila is a youth center where you can stay residential with your group for activities, schools and youth organizations. And we will be part in this project as the non-cultural partner, and we will try to bring youths in contact with this project.
Okay, so I'm Wim de Verme. I'm from Hasselt University, the Institute for Materials Research, indeed, which is a multidisciplinary research institute going from materials synthesis, chemistry, physics, but also engineering. I'm part of the Faculty of Engineering Technology, so focusing more on upscaling of these new materials, deposition. For me, that's using printing and coating technology to deposit these materials and bring them alive in devices.
I'm going to properly introduce Arnaud as the artistic director of this project. So I'm going to read you his short CV. So Arnaud, well, he's also part of IMAL because he's in our General Assembly. So also thank you for that support. Arnaud is a Belgian artist working primarily with the medium of sound. His work is both phenomenological and empirical. It has its origins in acoustics and technological research and investigates how sounds can trigger sonic processes that will affect the observer's scope of perception. His work focuses on a central question: how can the complexity, richness, and stratification of our direct daily environment be translated into something that can really be experienced? His work has been exhibited widely at ICEA, at MACBA in Barcelona, at IMAL for sure, at STUC, at KAI Theatre, Palais de Tokyo. Thank you for facilitating this project. I'm going to briefly introduce Wim because he's also going to present together with Arnaud. So Wim obtained an engineering degree in applied physics at the Technical University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands in 2003. He obtained a PhD in materials physics at Hasselt University in 2009 on the surface termination of synthetic diamond. In 2009, as a postdoc, he started research in the field of printable electronics. And since February 2014, he has been a professor at Hasselt University. His research activities are focused on the printing and coating of functional materials for flexible, stretchable, conformal and organic electronics with applications in organic light-emitting devices, printing sensors for ground and body monitoring, smart and stretchable wearables and many more. Printing and coating techniques such as inkjet printing, screen printing, ultrasonic spray coating, and the patented spray-on screen printing are studied for their use in the deposition of functional materials such as CNTs, gallium stand, etc. The research focuses on the deposition of these materials and applications on non-rigid and or non-flat substrates, such as flexible foils, paper, textiles, stretchable silicones, and 3D structures. Wow. Well, thank you to all of you, and I wish you a wonderful 4-day experience, also to the participants of the workshop, and let us know a bit more about this 3 years project, which is going to be super exciting for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia, for this great introduction. You have the great. Yeah, you can. Next one. So we can skip the first part because it was about who we are. But I'm going to discuss maybe a bit more about my work. So I studied architecture, finished around 91 at Saint-Luc in Ghent. And from that point, I was already very much interested in sound. I started already with sound before that. And of course, there's a connection between sound and space. And that was the part that I didn't learn a lot in my studies. So I decided to start my own practice via autodidactic way, and to research what are the possibilities of sound and how can you explore it and how can you define sound. And how can you show sound? So during this course of this practice, I started making music, but I released some CDs, but I also started to making installations that are much more something that you can experience, but always with sound in mind and a question about an experience or an exploration of sound. So, for example, what you see here, it's a small installation that is called, that is working with light and material, and what you hear is the sonority of the material. It's based on the research of Bell that says and that has researched that every material has sonority. So from this, I devised some experiments, and so yeah, this is a kind of an installation that is looking like an experiment, has some scientific elements, but has also a sound that is produced. From this installation, I also devised a bigger installation that is capturing the energy of the sun and is amplifying the sound of the sun. So this is an installation that is outside, it follows the sun, and it emits a sound that is related to the intensity of the light, but also something that is very interesting that happens is whenever there's a shadow or something coming before it, it's just very quiet. It doesn't make any sound. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. So my practice is also about recording sound. So I went for one installation that is here, Phantom Melodies. It's an installation that has recorded sounds from the Amazon forest and amplifies this through these speakers that are rotating. So it makes a much more dynamic sound. So when I was in the Amazon forest, the sound was really very, how I say, always present. It's at night, there's different type of insects, different animals that make sound. And so it's a process of 24 hours that is constantly there. And is also very a sound that is very into a space, but into an open space. So that's why I devised this installation.
That was explained already.
Yeah,
Let's quickly skip that.
So how it all started, the project Lumson, back in the 2000s, I devised an installation called Permafrost, and this installation is amplifying the process of freezing and melting. It's a process of 2 hours, something like this. It's constantly happening in one cube. You have the freezing process, and the other cube you have the melting process. And in the backside you see some sheets, and these sheets are amplifying the sound. And this is the first time that I was working with these sheets, and it's a special foil that is able to amplify sound. So this is based on the piezoelectric effect that is able to, so what it means, the piezoelectric effect is that when you apply energy to it, if you move it, then it makes electricity. But you can reverse this process too. So if you amplify sound or energy to it, it will start to move. And so we devised, so this device can also amplify sound. But you will.
Yeah, let's dive a bit into the science and the engineering and describe a bit how we met in this process. So if you look at piezoelectricity and you look here, or first here, what you see is that if you have a material and you squeeze it or you pull it, then because of the crystallographic orientation, that's what you see here, then you can, let's say, change the polarity, the positive and the negative charges, such that you create energy or electricity. That's what is this piezoelectric material. This is typically found in crystallographic materials, but there are some polymers where also that effect could be observed depending on the orientation or the let's say the amorphous and crystallographic parts of that polymer or the specific polymers. So that's something that what Arnaud already mentioned is that you have foils, polymers, PVDF to be specific, that also have that capacity that if you squeeze it, that it generates electricity. And of course you can do the inverse, that's what's called inverse piezoelectricity. If you apply a current through it, then the foil will move. And that is something that you can use, for example, to make what we all know as a loudspeaker. So if you apply electricity to that foil will start moving, vibrating. And if you do that in the right way, you can create a loudspeaker. This is a YouTube video. We checked it this morning. It doesn't work in the presentation, but don't worry. This is something which has been done in MIT and Stanford, reported the first time a few years ago. But people were aware already about the effect, of course, of the inverse piezoelectricity. But Arnaud has already used that for sound, let's say. So the left video should work, but there is sound, so I don't know if that, yeah.
Maybe I can say something about this installation. So it's a foil that is 5 meters long. That so you can apply energy to it, but you can also apply sound to it. So that's what I did. It's a kind of mono speaker. It's just one speaker amplifying a sound. But because of the shape, it can move. It's flexible. It will direct the sound in every way, in every direction, I mean. So that means that the sound is very dimensional. It's not like one speaker amplifying the sound into a space, but it's fantastic. It's a monophonic sound that is amplifying a sound into a space in a lot of different directions. So what is also interesting about this installation is that it's because it's a flexible speaker, you can move it, and during the performance, because it was performed with 4 voices, for a performance with 4 performers, and so the people could also move the installation while the performers were playing.
Yeah, and during the quest, let's say, from Arnaud to check what is exactly happening there, what is the science behind what you show, he was in contact with Cyrus, and then through Cyrus came in contact with us, and then Arnaud visited the lab. And then what we showed him, he came with a specific question on these loudspeakers. Can we develop them? Can we do that with a design of experiment? And sorry, a do-it-yourself way of making these devices. But then he saw in the lab that we are working on not, let's say, the sound, but light emission. So generating devices that can emit light. And this is what we do. So we take a substrate. This can be a foil. Can be glass, can be textiles, any substrate on which we put 2 electrodes. One electrode is silver, the other one is a transparent material, which is also a polymer. And then we put 2 materials in between, the phosphor layer, which is the light emitting layer, and the dielectric layer to make a capacitive structure. So what we apply then is an AC voltage. You see the total layer thickness is around 10 to 40 microns. You apply 80 volts in a frequency, so AC of 400 hertz. And what happens is that you have light emission. It's maybe not that interesting to dive deep into how that exactly works, but it's a combination of different materials that you use or doped materials. So it's a copper sulfide needle, and that copper sulfide is embedded in zinc sulfide. And what happens if you apply current from one side to the other side is that the electrons will move. And if you then transfer it, then the electrons would like to move back, leaving behind holes. And if you then reverse it again, these electrons will flow back, will fill those holes. And if an electron and a hole, so a negative and a positive charge, find each other, light is emitted. That is exactly what is happening. So that is the process of light emission. And of course, you can play with the different, let's say, colors that you emit by playing with different ways of changing the color. You can take the phosphoric materials and change the color, but you can also use nanoparticles in the different layers in that stack, those 4 layers that you've seen, to change the colors from, let's say, blue, green to yellow, orange, pink, and even white. So that's what is shown here. So we are able to do that in a way that you can create different colors, but of course you need different materials to be applied. So it's not one specific material that you can change color up to a certain extent. You have to add different materials to make different colors. We apply that by printing technology. So we have two systems in the lab, screen printing installations to do that. One is an industrial machine which is completely automated, and one is a bit more manual. And tomorrow and the day after, Arnaud, together with my colleague Dieter, will do, let's say, the fully manual, do-it-yourself way of depositing these devices. So those 4 layers to emit light, and then to combine it to what we'll explain later in the Lumson project. So just quickly, screen printing, maybe most of you know it, but what you apply is a specific paste onto a screen, and the screen has, as you can see here, certain openings. So the white area you see are openings, and if you apply a pressure with the squeegee on the screen, on the paste, you press the screen up to your substrate, the paste will go through the openings and you create a certain pattern onto the substrate. So that's what's happening. That's how we can create different things. And these are examples of light emitting devices that we put on textile for a company that wanted to have light emitting wall textiles. So for example, on ships and in casino, you wanted to, or the company wanted to create some, let's say, atmospheric light in textiles that you put towards the wall covering. So that's what we play with, and then what we further did. This we will explain, but here you see different colors. You see that you can also form it in 3D objects. That's what also is shown here. You can play with the color a bit. I mentioned if you want to change the color, you need to add pigments to change the color. For example, from blue to orange. But you can play a bit with the frequency, and then you can change bluish to green, something like that. And if you combine all this in electronics, yeah, you can make also segmented displays, for example, so to make light emitting displays. And this is an example of a video that we created together with Centexbel, which is the Center of Textile in Belgium. So this is also a large area, light emitting textile that we formed into an how you call that? Yeah, you see it here. So you see those blue lights lighting up, giving light to the environment in this lampshade. But what you will see if you go closer and you see inside the lampshade, of course, there's no light. So it's exactly the textile, the surrounding that is giving the light. So you can come up with creative ideas to use that light, and that is where Arnaud. So well, you can print light, but if we quickly go back, just as a final remark from my side, and you look at this, you see the substrate and also the dielectric layer as being materials that can be used or can be replaced by the PVDF, which is the piezoelectric material. So you can build this light-emitting device with a piezoelectric material, meaning that you can combine light and sound. And that is exactly where both of us met, and we started experimenting and came to Lumson. That I give back the word to Arnaud to explain that in more detail.
So it's very interesting because you can put some frequencies into the layers, and this will change the hue and the coloration of the phosphor materials that we brought in. So we can really create from very light green hues to more dark green hues, and so we can play with that. This is of course very interesting to be able to meet each other, because this dielectric layer, that's the foil that I use, is really combined with the technologies of Ohme. And so this is the Lumson project started a bit from this premise, And so we have 4 partners. Imal as producer, manager of the project, U Hasselt and Imo Imomek, who does the material research, Fari, who will do the AI research, and the Hoogriele, who helps into the education and youth, to bring the youth into the project. So we can have this slide, it's a small excerpt. So the sounds that you hear now, these are sounds based on the recordings that I made earlier of frequencies that are not perceivable. So I use devices, we can go to the next slide, different devices to capture those frequencies and to input it in a computer to be able to transform them into the audible domain. And then I worked with Yannick Guédon, who is a voice artist, and we worked in a studio for 2 weeks together, listening to those sounds and trying to mimic those sounds. So because we were in a studio, we could really work with very tiny mouth sounds, but also much more voicing, amplifying frequencies, and so on. And so the sounds that you heard, these were all voices. So for me, the next part would be to use a database of all these sounds that have been recorded, the electromagnetic waves, and also the voice sounds that will also be collected during the 3 years that will come, into a bigger database that can grow and can be driven by AI program, a motor that will make the transformation into the voices in a programmed way. And so, of course, these different speakers, you saw it was like a mosaic of different colors. They will have different changing colors used and so on. But it will also be a bigger foil that can be activated with a robot, because of course we want to go back to the movements of the foil that changes the shape of the sound. So we want to find a connection between how you chant, how you speak, and these 2 elements will be combined into an installation. So 3 minutes, okay. So for us, it's important to have a part that is open source. So we want to share the research that we do. We want to share the materials that we use, and try to find these DIY technologies or methodologies to share this material. So for us, it's important to create this database of sounds. For example, it's important to involve different parts of people. We can go to the next slide. The video. Yeah. So this shows very quickly the process of how we make a speaker. So it's very simple method. It's a very old screen printing technology. So this is the first layer to be able to. We need the different layers, but this is the first layers that will maybe give the first sides of the foil electricity. And then, of course, we use an oven normally, but now we will use hair dryers to. Yeah. So I think this is the last one. Oh, yeah. Here we use the prototype, and it's a monophonic, so you see all the mosaics shining in the same way, so it works on the same rhythm. But the idea is, of course, to have a multi-channel work that is able to illuminate in different ways. And here are all the partners. Thanks for them.
Thank you so much. I'm going to invite Camilla and Marie so we can have some conversations and we open the mic to the audience. If you have any questions, surely you have some questions because I pose myself a lot of questions about this art-science collaboration. Sometimes it's easy like we just saw, sometimes it's not so easy. But do we have a mic at these ones? So I see there are some questions here. Thank you, Jeremy.
No, but maybe you hear me? We are not that many people in here.
Now it's see the lights.
Should I press on something?
It's up to you.
No? Okay, yeah, thank you. So thank you all, that was super interesting. There would be so many questions about the whole topic about art and science, but I will start with a specific question about the last topic, because I'm really curious. Did you explore that way of activating the surface for haptic feedback? So does it work with sound, but could it go low enough and powerful enough so that it can be made to feel the vibration through the skin instead of the ears?
Yes, of course. What is important to know is that it's about micro vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
So you heard that also the sound is very sharp, very high. So, but of course, when you put very low frequency, you see the foil starts to move. You really see the activations. But that's all we did as experiments with that. But I can imagine that there is, because it's also feeding electricity. When you move the foil, it will feed electricity. There is a bi-directional way, I guess.
So that could be a path to explore.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's other field of research. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. My question is for Ohme. Camila was your name?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi, Camila.
Hello.
Yeah, it was very interesting. If you can maybe give us some concrete examples how to avoid art for science communication.
Oh, sorry.
How to avoid art for science communication.
How to avoid that?
Yeah.
God, thank you for the question. I think that these type of exchanges and collaborations, and when these two worlds meet, at the end of the day, is human beings, you know, is people, and if intentions are set clearly, and there is a real alignment of intentions, then this type of traps can be avoided. It's there is no universal recipe. I would like to tell you that there is. I mean, if there is, I'm not aware of it. A lot of it, a lot of the work, and I think that my colleague Raoul is going to agree with me on that, is mediation. And I'm not meaning mediation towards the public, I'm really meaning mediation between the parties. It is about being there, it's about doing the work of making sure and trying, keep trying, in set clear intention and finding the right people to bring together. Because of course it's not enough to just put an artist and a scientist in a room, lock the door and tell them, okay, now collaborate. It doesn't work like that. The recipe is more complex, and sometimes it just doesn't work. And I also would like to add something I didn't mention earlier. There is nothing wrong in using the arts to do science mediation and science communication, or to use the sciences, just adopt something, take it and displace it and do something else with it. There is absolutely nothing wrong in doing both of these practices. What is important is that intentions are set clear, that there is no appropriation, in that you know, the deal is fair, and that all parties involved agree on the terms of the collaboration. But once again, it all boils down to human interaction and having the sensibility to, to make things work for a common interest, not just the interest of one of the parties involved.
Anybody else have a question?
You want to add something?
Yeah, maybe I add something and ask a question at the same time. So I think we had the same feeling, because when Arno came to us, we were working with these light emitting devices, not paying attention on the sound that it makes. Because if you use those light emitting devices, even without this piezoelectric material, when you apply the electricity, some of these materials start making noise, making sound, and we always looked at it as some parasitic things. We didn't pay attention, and then Arno came, and that made for us, let's say, an opening to also investigate that and dive into that. So it's indeed a mutual interest, and we both benefit from that, yeah, and that links also to society, because of course you want to, let's say, Arno is really trying to use that to inform society, for example, about inaudible sounds, to create awareness about these inaudible sounds, and that would be my question. So you often see art and science together to let's say, aware the public, let's say. But what about industry? I'm an engineer. I'm looking always from an industrial point of view. So looking at these devices we make, we investigate them to bring them to economic finality. How do you look from the art side to that economic finality, and do you see any links there?
I only get easy questions. I'm very happy. Okay. We are starting the last thing I talked about, the method residency about glass. It's the first one. It's actually not that one, but next to it there is another project that will start soon, always about glass. It's the first time that we will be actually really being involved in a project with industry, so someone with commercial purposes. I don't know if Marie has any experience in working also with business in this type of project. Probably she will have something very interesting to add. I think I will pass. I don't have direct experience of it yet, so I think that Marie will have something interesting to say.
Yes. So first of all, before replying to the question, I just wanted to add on what you were saying, Camilla. What we showed here were all the projects that worked, but quite often it just doesn't work, art and science collaboration. And we've tried many collaborations in the past that didn't work out because it's a matter of human connection and relationship and a common understanding. And sometimes, you know, scientists don't understand why it could be interesting to collaborate with an artist, and it's the same from the point of view of the artist, saying, okay, scientists are too, you know, they're going in a straight line into their research, and they don't want to go sideways, they don't want a sideline, so it's too complicated to collaborate with them. And so it's really a matter of finding the right connection between people. And it's really complicated because universities or research centers are huge, and sometimes you need, I call them fixers, people who orientate you towards the right mind you're looking for. And those type of people are really helpful because they can tell you, I know this scientist and I know they would be keen on collaborating with artists, because it's not the case for everybody. So yeah, it's a really tricky thing to find the right people to match with the right artist. And to reply to the second question, yes, we've had this experience in the past. Sometimes it was successful and sometimes not at all. Because it's also a matter of finding the right people and also finding the person who will manage the entire project so that it becomes a real business. Because none of the artists want to become businessmen, they don't want to launch a company or a university spin-off, and it's the same quite often for the scientists. I mean, it's not their business to launch a business. They are into the research. So it's a matter of finding the right people who will push the project towards the market and take over, basically. So we've had some experiences of projects in the past where we would see a real opportunity to make it as a product or as a real business, but we could never find the right people to manage the project. And so we looked for funding, we developed it up until some point, and then it just died because of that. But we launched one successful project. Basically, it was back in the years in 2014, I think. We co-funded a research lab called the Smart Gastronomy Lab. It was with the University of Liège. They have a campus in Jean Blou, next to Namur, called Jean Blou Agrobiotech, researching that, agrobiotechnology. And so they co-funded with us, KIKK, the Smart Gastronomy Lab, a lab exploring the crossover between gastronomy, science, and art. And within this lab, we experimented in the beginning out of, so the idea was to create a kind of fab lab, but involved with science, chemistry, food, and gastronomy. And we created a 3D printer that was able to print with chocolate. So it took us, so in the beginning it was just out of an artistic project, let's experiment the physicality of chocolate and make some sculpture and then mix data visualization with taste. And so We did a lot of experiments. We did a series of workshops, also called data science, with some artists, and data cuisine, sorry, with some artists. And then we created this printer. In the beginning, it was really a DIY machine. You know, we hacked a real printer and then to print with food. And then the university saw the opportunities there, and so they decided to create a spin-off. So it became the Miam Factory, and it still exists now. And they created a real product because, of course, when you work with food, you need to have certain types of specification. And the printer we created had none of those specifications because it was just a hack of a printer. And it became a real business. But most of them, I can think of 3 other projects which could have been successful, but we couldn't find, nor the university, nor the artist, nor the scientist wanted to develop it as a business. So, you know, I still have, if some people want to, you know, develop those projects, I'm still looking for people.
Any other question? I'm gonna say something to be a bit polemical. Why not? In these art science collaborations, it seems to me, in my experience, that the weakest part is always the arts. And sometimes this happens because we know the cultural field has less support. But sometimes even from the cultural field, there's this unequal relation between how art is considered and science is considered. Have you found that this is happening often, or like? Well, actually, we're just sitting here today while there's the European Bauhaus, for example. 10th and 11th, is that right? The new European Bauhaus, for example, where the arts, it was like, if we talk about the Bauhaus, we all more or less know what it was all about and what the role of arts was in this whole movement. The new European Bauhaus should also be about this movement, and maybe the arts is not as well considered and as well included in this new movement. Is this something that we would like to talk about?
I'm highly opinionated about this. Yes, so there is a major difference that everybody seems to forget in this new European Bauhaus story, is that the original Bauhaus movement was an autonomous, spontaneous, and bottom-up movement. There was no overarching authority that went and woke up one day and said, hey, the arts, you guys, now you're going to join us in a new European movement, and you're going to play a key role in it. By the way, we know that this is what you want to do. So, of course it doesn't work. Like, I don't know, it's intrinsically flawed. You can't impose a movement. No authority can impose a movement. Even less an authority that is so far away from the day-to-day life of people, such as the European ones. And I'm a profoundly pro-European person. I worked in European cultural policies for 5 years. I still think that this type of initiative is extremely flawed. It's no surprise that the participation of the cultural sector, specifically the arts, in this type of initiative feels out of tune. I was there yesterday. I was at Saint-Contenaire yesterday. I heard amazing artists being forced in 10-minute presentations, and it felt like an art washing. I don't know even what is branding. It felt like branding. It felt like marketing, and it was a bit annoying, to be honest, to see these incredible artists, honestly, packed on the same stage, and it felt like a wasted occasion of hearing what these people actually have to say. They felt a bit like they were parachuted there, you know. And I have the feeling that this is spread a bit everywhere. I also would like to add, to go in the line, follow in the line of your polemic, big fan of it. If you look at the budgets of European projects, European type of funding, no matter in which stream, so whether it's for culture, whether it is for research, whether it's for agriculture, fishing, whatever, and then you look at the type of money that is mobilized for the artist, for this revolutionary initiative that they're calling a movement, well, you would feel embarrassed for them. It's almost borderline insulting that this type of initiative are so poorly funded. I would even not say funded. I can't even use the word funded. It's, really breadcrumbs. Voilà. Any other opinion?
I would like to just say something online what you were saying, because it's a question, I guess, more in trying to reconcile this argument that you're sharing. So, have you found strategies to deal with these modalities of productions? That's what we're speaking. Are very different the modalities of production of art than the modalities of production of science. I will be very interested to hear if you guys have some insights on this. Thank you.
What I'm amazed about, my name is Isha. I'm art historian to start with, so I have an overview of what happened in art history. And for me, sometimes it's not really an answer to your question, but I would like to add it, because in fact you say production of art and not production of science. In fact, we're talking about production of art, and sometimes the means to create are here technology and research, and sometimes there's not enough poetry for me in this kind of creations, because the focus is sometimes the balance tips over towards the technology and the research, and it's not always about what the artistic values can be by using this. It's like a whole discussion about NFTs. Then I'm thinking like, okay, no. This is not art. This is not. It's a vehicle to work with art, but not the art is the final purpose, not the means of creating. Of course, it's like same thing if you it's super practical, ship an artwork. If it's a painting, it's an artwork. If it's a work that uses technology, they want to have the HS number of every single part of that artwork. And that's completely stupid. It's not always interpreted in the right way or seen in the right way because its technology is involved. And what I would like to stand for is we want the artistic value to be in the limelight, and we want to have the poetic angle also more in the limelight, and the wonder that art creates, etc., etc. So I would love to stop dividing art and technology and art world's issues, and that would make everything much easier. Just incorporate art and technology in the bigger art fields and stop separating them. So that's my first reaction on what you said between the art production and research and technology. Yeah, well, I just suddenly woke up with a certain opinion. Sorry.
Just to follow up on what you're saying and shortly, I'm completely with you. Like I'm an artist, I'm a dancer and a choreographer by coming from that field, but I'm working with technology the last 7 years. Also, the reality is that, like in the way how it's being seen from outside, is a different one. So, as I said, I will be more on this path. But then I guess the question was for the experts in the panel, like if you guys have strategies to deal with the modalities, how these fields are being seen from the science and from the art perspective.
I will try to reply. I don't really have a strategy, but I think, I mean, I will try to reply to what you're saying, to both questions, also your question, because I think it's all a matter of policy and politics. Basically, I think the reason why art is less considered is because it's not measurable. And on the opposite, science, and specifically applied sciences, but research in general is measured through different metrics, the number of papers that are produced, the results of the research, the application of the research, and so on and so forth. And so it's much more easy to measure the impact of a scientific project or the dissemination of such a project than an artistic project. An artistic project, it's very subjective. Sometimes, how do you measure poetry, you know? How do you measure, body movements? How do you measure something that is very subjective, something that anybody would feel different, something that is really in connection to our own self? And at the same time, culture is what connects human beings, and culture is what creates an identity, what creates also a feeling of belonging to a country, to a group, to a community. So it's something that bonds human being and that is necessary in any country or any part of the world. We need it to communicate and to bond with each other, and sometimes to understand the world, or to try to make sense of what we don't understand, and sometimes that is also what art is about. But in terms of, if you look at it from a political point of view, then it's impossible to grasp. You cannot measure the impact of a project, and because you don't have any quantitative data, it's only qualitative data. And so politics have trouble, you know, when you write a report. Quite often they don't really read them because they don't care. They just look at the number and at the invoices and at the budget, and that they just double check that your budget has been well used and that you produced all the invoices. So I think this is one of the reasons. There are many other reasons, but I think this is one of the reasons. It's also because it doesn't create any. I mean, it doesn't create direct money for the economy, because it creates money and it is a business as well. But I think it's a second reason. And on the modalities, I think, I mean, from my experience in collaborating with artists and scientists, when you look at it, often I ask a question after a collaboration with artists and scientists. I ask them what they have learned from this collaboration, and almost the same reply that comes from almost every project is that artists are telling me, it's funny, I didn't know we had such a similar way of working, but actually the way an artist works and the way a scientist works is very similar. They have the same processes, they research for a long time, they experiment, and so on. So I think it's very similar in a way. It's just that from a political point of view, politicians put artists on a lower level because they cannot measure anything of the impact. But I think they're pretty similar, actually. I don't know if you want to reflect on that, maybe as you are an artist.
Yeah, I think basically it has to do with purpose, I think. A lot of times when I speak with scientific people, the research needs to have a purpose. And when I work with sound engineers and scientific, for example, for sound, a lot of research has to do with making the world more quiet. So, and I'm interested in making sound in a way, of course, or I want to research the sound, but in a different point of view. So the purpose, my purpose is maybe it's a poetic purpose, and for the scientifician, it's more about just what society needs in reality, I think, more in the real. What do you think?
Well, it's a very difficult question, but I agree that if you look at funding, they always look at KPIs and what is the impact and these kind of things. Scientific community works like that. So if you start a research, if you start a PhD, you don't, well, of course you would like to understand materials, you would like to understand the science behind it, but in the end it's measured by a publication, it's measured by a presentation, it's measured by and yeah, I can understand that is maybe also in science a wrong way to look at it, because it's about the science and it's not about the publication in the end. Yeah, so difficult question to answer. Yeah. Yeah, but what you often see is that if we write proposals, European Union, also in Flanders or in Belgium, you see that there's always a part that needs to be written on valorization. What will be the, let's say, the economic finality of what you do? Science for the science is dying as well. So they always ask for, if you do this, what will be the turnover for the Flemish economy and these kind of things. And that is more difficult to put in numbers from an artistic perspective, I think. From a science perspective, from a research perspective, that might be also not easy, but maybe a bit more easy than in arts.
Hi, wonderful conversation. I'm gonna defend the art here. So, because I work somehow in the field, I agree that both fields are very similar the way how it operates. So especially when you say science for the science, not science for economical purposes, then actually the things are extremely similar. Artists and scientists, we have to write all these projects, especially when it's a research-based project or require like lots of technical, lots of facilitation, then it takes years. So we actually operate in a similar way. And that's what I found the similarities. The other thing in collaboration with the art science, what I found is the time. Often scientists don't have the time, because scientists also are busy not only doing the science, but writing all these projects like we artists do. And that became a bit of the nice thing about science, which we don't have, is the backbone support system of scientific institutions. Once you're on a salary or you're in like a long-term project, you know that at least for the next few years you're saved. And you also build a network within the institution. So then going from one research to the other and building on your own research, or like diving to another direction, from doc to postdoc to just projects, it's much more easy. Though if you're an artist who, let's say, are not interested in going to academia, you don't have that kind of, how to say, mindset. So then it's like project-based. And then once you get it, once you don't, and it's much more, how to say, fluid. So sometimes you have to do something else. So we don't have this support in long term that we can have like dive deeper into a research or build on it into a network. Also, I think scientists between them often understand collaboration. Maybe something exists with musicians, but with visual artists is less present. So yeah, it's about also how we share knowledge between artists within the artist community.
Just to react to that, one of the reasons why this year we changed the way we organize our program of support is precisely because of the reason of time. That one element of actually it's even I think it's slightly even more important than motivation. Finding motivated scientists or researchers is finding researchers and scientists that have the time to dedicate to someone else's project, an artist that arrive and saying, hey, I have this brilliant idea, let's do it together. It's research nowadays, I mean, there is a beautiful, very interesting work of Kim Albrecht about how research functions and how knowledge in academia is constructed and what type of researchers and what type of research is evaluated, how much is successful, you know, the impact factor and all this thing. The way that academic research is made is intrinsically flawed because once again, there are mostly quantitative factor instead of qualitative factors about number of citations and sort of this thing of so researchers themselves are trapped in a system that, I mean, does everything but create an environment that is generous and favorable to endeavor and discover and creativity. It's hard for scientists and researchers to carve out the space, physical and mental and financial also, to progress. To make progress that is, at least for public academia, is meant to contribute to the progress of the whole society. So it's for the common good, you know. So yeah, those spaces of that are propice to this mix and mingle are very rare. Voilà.
So I don't know.
I was just responding, building on your comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to add maybe that the high level of management tools and like methodology using KPIs, etc. If you search back in the history of science, it's quite new. So maybe we can do the turnover and go back like 40 years. And another point is also that financially, the career of a researcher is quite also often based on its project based too. So it's not if you want to make money, it's not the best career.
Yeah, thanks for the discourse so far. It's been amazing to listen to all these different perspectives, and I definitely agree with the idea, and the conversation has been going on, that there should be more of a focus on the process and not so much on the output whereas economical values are related. But I am interested in how do you guys select, if not, like we want to step away from this, okay, we have to get a certain output and there has to be an economical value for society in what we create. But so how do you go about that when you host an open call, let's say, and see how can we acknowledge the intrinsic value of what's being made? So how do you make that selection? How do you make that distinction?
You want to go first? It relates to what I was saying before. You know, art is subjective by definition, so you cannot make an objective selection anyway when you are, you are into a jury. Maybe Isha, you can comment on that after, but. I mean, of course, you define some criteria. Of course, there is a grid that you are using, usually doing a jury. So usually, and in our case, when we do open calls, as the open calls connected to art and science project, we always have at least one researcher or a member of the university or a research center in the evaluation, and some people from the art world. And then it's an open discussion. So of course we look at the different criterias, but we also look on whether the artist is an emerging artist or a very well established artist, because of course, I mean, our aim, and I think it's the same with Ohme, we're more into supporting emerging artists rather than well established artists. We look at, of course, the artistic qualities of the project, the feasibility as well, and then one very large criteria in our case is we look at how we will be able to help the artists. So basically, as we have a Fab Lab, we will tend to choose projects that would benefit from the infrastructure and the tools of a Fab Lab. We look also at projects that would benefit from our technical team. And we look at projects that we could be able to exhibit, so that we can help also in giving visibility to the projects, so that they can be shown somewhere else afterwards. And we also look, of course, at the topic and on whether it is interesting, and the discourse and what it tells in connection to the topic of the open call. But then in the end, it's a discussion, and it's about how you feel about the project. Quite often, I mean, the way I choose project is really not looking at a grid and not giving points. It's just intuitive choice, really.
I agree with 100% of what Marie said. It's you try to build a jury that is as diverse as possible and that represents all the interests at stake in the project, and of course, well, in the role of, when you have a background and your role is in curation and in artistic direction, first thing you listen to is your gut, and how you first. Also starting with the point that more often than not you're reading on paper, so you're not experiencing an artwork. You're just reading on paper an idea, and it is very different than finding yourself in a room with the actual artwork. That doesn't exist yet, and there is this, for us, what we do is, we have evaluation criteria, we have a grid, and then you try to have a lot of conversations. You take the time to have conversation and back and forth, and you set these criteria very clearly. You state them very clearly when the call is open. I think it's very important to know, to help people, to facilitate candidates to outline their project in the clearest way. And then you listen to as many voices, to all the relevant voices that are, you know, the people, the researchers, the scientists, the institution, your colleagues, the engineer that is actually going to work on it. And hearing these voices and make sure that you end up as being as aligned as possible. You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no other question, I don't know if Isha wants to say something else? Okay. Okay. All right, so thank you to all the speakers. Thank you so much. And thank you to the audience. Hope to see you again in the next activities. Later on, we start at 3 p.m. with critical approach to 30 years of Fab Labs or something like that. What can we say about digital fabrication? What were the expectations and what are the expectations now towards this maker culture? So at 3 p.m. we restart. So you'll be very welcome to join us then. And thank you. That's all. 7 p.m. after the talks, also some fun concerts. We have Carlo Sampaolesi, a fantastic accordionist that we have found through an open call, because open calls are also for that. Open calls serve also to give you a better sense of what's out there, who is doing interesting things. So we found Carlo Sampaolesi there, and he was not chosen at the time, but he was chosen to have to perform today at 7 p.m. And then again we'll have Valmasé with us. So join us at 7 on, from 7 on. Thank you.